Hello everyone and welcome back to Factory Town Series 3 and Episode 2 of Series 3. Now, before we get down to the meat and bones of this episode in particular, I do want to take a moment to offer a huge and very, very much heartfelt thank you to everyone for the support and the positive comments on the first episode. As a creator, I really can't overstate how motivational it is when people say that they not only enjoyed the video, but that they're actually excited for the return of a game to the channel, for what videos may come. That's so wonderful to see. So thank you everyone for those wonderful comments there. It really did mean a lot to me. Now, I can already actually see a couple of problems that weren't here in the town before, or rather when we wrapped up last episode. This one I'm not at all surprised by though. I was a little bit shocked that it seemed that our meeples were able to deliver up a half block, but what I think may have happened there is when I removed the ramp, I removed it and thereby their pathing wasn't updated when I removed the block, but on save and load of the game, it validated their pathing and suddenly realized, oh, wait a minute, they're not meant to be able to put this up there. Shenanigans, I call. Fair enough, I suppose. Right, the next thing we're going to have a look at is oh, wait, that's right. We also had a wagon over here that wasn't delivering fish. How dare you? Let's get you back to work. And with that done, we've got a couple of things to look at. Now, this episode is going to be largely focused on getting to the point where we're self-sufficient with at least lumber and food. And also, the growing problem over here of deforestation. Now, technically, we want to deforest this area so that we have a little bit more room to put down some basic industry just to get the town running. But ultimately, this is going to cause a massive slowdown, so that's something that we're going to have to come back to. What shall we research now? On that note, we're going to go with forestry. Now, one thing to understand about farming is that to get... well, not so much industrial scale farming, but farming that you can scale yourself, you're going to need an animal pasture before you need a farm, in some regards. You are going to need an animal pasture before you can start expanding your farms. But we're going to go with forestry next, because that is probably going to be a big issue. Now, we already have farming, and as we can already see over here, that remaining grain did not last very long at all. So let's go ahead and clear up this little path. Let's get you down there as well, please. There we go. And we are going to need to set this whole area up to have some farming done over here. We've got the grain over here, and we could have our meeples just harvest all of this grain, but why not use a farm to do that? So let's grab a farm. Now, farms can access natural crops as much as they can access crops that you plant on a farm tile, but there are differences in how they work. Now, a meeple will just straight up completely strip a tile of all the resources on it and won't replant. A farm, and indeed a forestry, will replant even natural resources, but they can't use the full kind of breadth of their tools on those resources. For example, a farm can water and fertilize crops to encourage them to regrow faster. But they can't do that to natural crops. They can only do that if the crop is present on a farm tile. Now, you can place a farm tile under natural crops, thereby making it a farmable crop. But they will happily harvest the crops from here. And once these run out of resources, for example, this one, once they've harvested it this 26th time, it won't disappear. It'll go from green, like wheat or barley, etc., to a golden wheat or barley to green shoots. Those green shoots will take a long while to regrow, much longer than if they were on a farm tile, and much longer than if that farm tile was watered and or fertilized. So there is an incentive to move away from harvesting only the natural crops as quickly as you can. But for the time being, let's just set that up with grain, and we are also going to want our mill over here, because there's no point in running that all the way to the other side. We may as well just build it down here, and that'll be nice and easy for us to manage, because we can run a chute straight out from the farm straight to the mill. There we go. We'll just hook that there. There we go. We've also unlocked the forester. Fantastic. Now let's go ahead and start work on the animal pasture, and once we've got that, we'll be able to finalize our farms and actually get them truly truly up to spec. We'll be able to expand them as we want, and we can then like put farms wherever we particularly want and bring the crops to the farms rather than having to build farms near the crops, which is one of the biggest drawbacks of using natural crops, in addition to the fact that they take long to regrow. Now, it's at this point that if you were mathematically minded or just wanted to really eke out the most efficiency that you can out of anything, you can start worrying about ratios and timings. So, for example, we produce 1 grain crop every 2 seconds. The grain mill will use 3 grain crops to make 1 flour every 4 seconds, so effectively 1.5 crops every 2 seconds. So you could completely saturate the grain's input demand with 2 farms. Now, you could build 2 farms, or you can simply add an extra worker to this farm. Now, for that, I'm going to have to return that worker to the population queue. And there we go. 2 workers there has increased it. Now, it used to be the case that, or at least I believe, that happiness wasn't applied based on the number of workers. It was applied based on the building. So in those instances, it was actually more efficient to have 2 farms, because then you would have 2 people working in those 2 farms, so a combination of 200%, but you would have the happiness bonus applied twice. But that is no longer the case here. The happiness bonus is applied per person working at the facility, so it went from 120 to 240. So there isn't a need in this instance to have 2 farms, but there are some boosting effects that are applied to the building rather than the amount of people working in them. And so do be aware that there are some times where just having 2 buildings, even though it's going to use exactly the same amount of people, 2 separate buildings will be the more efficient way of doing it over having just more people working in a single location. But for the most part, I'm not going to worry too much about ratios in this playthrough. I know that some people really like it when I get down into the real gears and the inner workings of things like this. But one of the things I really like about Factory Town is it's just so relaxed, and for the most part, we'll just eyeball things. It's not to say that I won't care about the specific efficiency of certain processes, but I'm not going to make it my business to care about all of it. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to need 2 wagons for this. Right now, it's completely overflowing, so I guess 2 wagons would be fine, but we may have to come back here because I'm not sure that trip is long enough to necessitate 2 wagons working there. Now, at this point, we are starting to have a bit of trouble, so I'm actually going to tell this wagon, could you please stop delivering lumber, or rather planks, to the general store? We've massively reduced our production of planks, so we need to be very careful about this. Also, you're sneaking behind there, not doing any work. How dare you? Unfortunately, I set him up to move the grain that ended up in the base building towards the end of the last episode, and I completely forgot about it until now, so I guess it's my fault, not yours. I just didn't give you any more jobs to do. Now, fluid pipes are something that I haven't played with up to now because they are brand new to the game since my last season, so I'm going to enjoy playing around with that once we get there. But we really do need to solve the lumber problem before we do anything else. Now, I'm going to allow my meeples to continue trying to harvest these trees where possible, and in fact, to that end, I'm going to make their job a wee bit easier by extending out the chutes where I can. We'll bring that down somewhere like that. Actually, we won't do that, because if I drag it in that way, it's very easy for me to cause a problem for the people delivering. And that should greatly enhance this, but this one's now so far away, I don't think we're really going to be able to help with that one. I'm just going to allow my meeples to continue delivering there while we set up a forestry. Now, the forestry, much like the farm, can access natural tiles, so natural trees. These are wood-bearing trees, but there are also apples and pear trees, and you'll get food from those rather than wood. But we are primarily concerned with the renewability of our lumber industry. So 1 tree farm there. Now, do we have a worker? Yes, we do. Fantastic. Now, the thing with the tree farm is wood costs a coin. It's one of the few things that we have so far that is actually going to start draining our coffers rather than adding to them. But it only costs 1 coin per tree, and we'll get that every 3 seconds. So honestly, the amount of food that we're selling easily produces the amount of trees that we're going to be harvesting. So we'll set that up, and that shouldn't be a problem for us at all. I think we're going to need to expand the Old Town District a little bit, and because I like to do things a little bit differently, we're not necessarily going to have it all uniform and rows of houses. We'll just upgrade a house here and there, just so there's a little bit of added character to the town there. But those houses will be able to accept quite varied goods, so hopefully we'll be able to make even more money with that very soon. Now, this is going to automatically produce logs, and logs can move down a chute. So at this point, we're going to need less and less and less meeples moving around and harvesting for us. I am going to bring, I think this may be the point where we start using some of our red coins, in fact. Yes, we're going to go ahead and we're going to flatten down some of the terrain here. And the reason for that is that I would very much like to have a slope that the lumber is, rather the logs is going to follow, just so they speed up a little bit. I imagine we'll have our foresters up here, and they can supply a chute of logs that can go to a bunch of different log buildings that we're going to be setting up in just a moment. Now, later on when we've got conveyor belts, we can do this very differently. What you're about to see me do is manipulate the way that things moving down a chute work. As I've mentioned before, if they're going down a straight chute, they'll always tend to try and continue straight. They'll only take a turn if they can't go straight, and so that's something that we want to play on here. I'm going to continue work on basic logistics. This is one of the only other things that we've got at the moment that does consume coins, and it does actually consume those at a reasonable pace. So we do need to start worrying about our economy. But the first thing I would like to do is I would like to have logs being stored in a barn, not in my base. As I've mentioned, I prefer to have a dedicated storage for any particular type of resource, just so that we've got everything neatly squared away. And I guess we can have the log barn over here. I'm not sure if that's going to be too far. We will see. I am completely okay with them storing as much of that as they possibly can. Now, I don't want you guys harvesting those logs anymore. We're going to move you down here, and then I'm going to straight up remove that. And I know I've just wasted some resources. It does pain me a little bit. But what I would like you to do, and in fact the wagon as well, just move the logs from the base down into this barn, and go ahead and start filling that up. Now, barns share the global inventory much the same way the base does, so anything put into a barn I can build with, and that is something that we're going to be using to great effect. Hopefully great effect. There we are. We're going to bring this down here. Now we're going to have all of these logs just go straight down this chute, and it'll speed up a little bit as it comes down that little ramp, and then continue on into the barn. So this will fill up very quickly. Now, the barn currently can't store nearly as much as my base level 3. The base level 3 can stack up to 400 in one square, and it can only stack one square of logs. But this can stack up to 50 currently in one square. If I were to upgrade it at the cost of 100 coins and 20 planks, this would be able to double the storage ability of this barn. So we'd be able to hold quite a lot of logs in there for now. Right now, this is going to take a little while for that to finish doing what it's doing. The next thing we're going to want is a lumber mill dedicated to the production of planks. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to build these reasonably close together, I think. For example, we'll pop that one there, and then we'll have a little turn off right there. Now, this isn't going to get any logs until we've got an entire barn full of logs, so that's something that we need to be aware of. Let's move you down there. But I do want another barn. So let's go ahead and copy that over there. There we go. Let's just make sure that's all set up. I want this one to... Oh, I copied a mill. Well, that wasn't quite what I meant to do. Let's go ahead and delete that one. Right, we want the barn. There we are. Let's pop that one there. The barn here is going to be set up for planks. There we go. And this can happily just move those planks between the two. I do want to set up some roads down here because it's going to get quite a busy little area here eventually. We'll connect that up down there. Now this one's just going to sit there and move the two side to side. In fact, maybe I should move them over just a little bit to make them distinct, because they are handling a single resource there. And I think that would be a bit of a nicer way of doing that. So I'm going to just delete that and fix this problem. Thunk. There we go. Perfect. Right. So once that's done, they'll start loading that into this barn. So that's one of them sorted. Next up, we want a lumber mill into a workshop into a barn. So we're going to need three structures, or a little gap there. We'll first have the lumber mill, then the workshop, then we will have everything else besides. You have all finished your work down there. Well done, you. I'm quite impressed. Right, with that then, we can go ahead and move our lumber mill over there, our workshop right next to it, and finally, a new barn right next to that. There we go. And this one is going to be set for wagon wheels. Now, we are probably never going to upgrade this one, because frankly, 200 wagon wheels is already more than enough. We will never need more than that, or at least I certainly hope we don't. Not at any one time, and we'll easily be able to produce more over time. There we go. Let's get all of this sorted out. There we are. Nicely done. We are doing a fairly good job of emptying everything out there, and for the time being then, I guess we could grab... let's get all of these meeples. I want you harvesting that and bring it all the way over here. You much the same. Harvest these trees and just bring them down there. That's fine. We'll go ahead and we'll remove these. We can now store some of them into the main base area, but not too many. We are definitely losing some resources here, but now that we've got the forester up, it's largely sustainable. There we go. Let's pop that one in there. Now, the way this is going to work, we're always going to stock up on planks first, and then we're going to stock up on wagon wheels. We are going to stock up on 200 planks. We've already hit the wood capacity, so you'll notice now that this is starting to feed into the lumber mill. There we go. Perfect. Now, this requires 2 logs every 3 seconds, so our one forester over here is not quite able to do that. We could add another worker, I suppose, and let's have a look. Yes, that does actually add an extra 100% there, so that's not too bad at all. We'll keep going with that one for now. We don't need more than that. But eventually, we're going to hit the issue down here of, well, we've got a lot of wood-using structures here, so realistically, I think a second forester would be a good move for us. So let's nestle you in there. They will both make use of the same trees in that little area there, but that should be fine. We'll set this one up. We'll also add an extra worker there. So we've got quite a lot of workers now gathering logs for us, but that's fine. I'll bring that all the way down and hook that in. I could have had it running in there, but I generally don't like having the output from one building crossing over the output of another building in such a way that if the buildings will basically clog each other up. I mean, ultimately they will clog a little bit down here, but I think this is kind of is a throwover from oxygen not included, honestly, where any output would prevent another building from outputting anything at all, even if realistically they could stack under normal circumstances. But this will keep all of the logs flowing for a little while, and that'll actually be quite good. We are actually now filling this one up faster than we can get the logs down to it. So this one should start seeing some input very soon. There we are. We're already starting to see some. And so everything should start moving along. This is wonderful. For now, I would like you to move the wagon wheels that we've already got out of there. And in fact, I am going to intercept a meeple or two meeples. Let's grab you down here as well. I'm going to return you guys to the worker pool because I want some extra wagons. Let's get those going. I want you to help out. Actually, yeah, you can go ahead there. And we're bringing these wagon wheels up. I want the planks moved as well, please and thank you. And slowly, little by little, we're going to clear out the base of those basic resources, and that's going to be a big help for us, a huge help, in fact. And just for the sake of it, we'll add a little path in between these, just to make them even more distinct. There we are. That is wonderful. We've automated and largely made sustainable our lumber industry, and indeed our wagons as well, so that's pretty cool. Down here, not quite as much. There's still much to be done down here. So let's improve the efficiency very slightly by having all of my meeples offloading into a crate. Let's have you over here. You as well, please. Just pop down there, and as soon as you're done, we'll get you doing the same thing. Let's get all of you together, and we're going to want one more wagon as well. Let's get you going. We can pop you there. There we are. Now, we are not going to need this many workers, actually, doing this, but we'll set it up for now. There we are. Plenty of logs in there, and we'll just start ferrying those logs down to the lumber mill over here. Eventually, we are going to want to set this out and up differently. I don't know if I'm going to have this one set up to operate with these ones. We could, but I would need to deliver the water in a different way. And that may be something that we look into. But for the time being, I think the next part of our plan is to work on our fields. As you can see, our poor grain farm has completely harvested all of the grain here, and it's growing reasonably slowly. So for the next stage of our plan, I'm going to break that connection there, and we're going to wait for some of this grain to regrow. So I shall bring you back in a few moments. Okay, as you can see, the farmland has regrown. Most of the tiles, in fact, probably all of them are really close now. And we've even managed to build up a little bit of a backlog of grain there that we can use. Now, why have I disconnected? Well, I want that grain to give us a bit of a kickstart in regard to our pasture industry and getting fertilizer specifically. So the first step in getting fertilizer is to produce animal feed. It all starts with feeding our farm animals. So we're going to pop a new grain mill just down here. We're actually getting close to our population limit now. So let me have a look at where I could save a little bit of work there. We've still got 3 peeps down here helping out with bringing over logs. How about we get you doing something else? Could you just drop those logs off, and then I'm going to have you working elsewhere, where we don't need any more logs stored in that barn, clearly. But is there anywhere else that we could store logs? Not really. We seem to have completely backstuffed everything. Okay, well, let's go ahead and upgrade a couple of these. We definitely want more planks than that, and we also definitely want a lot more logs stored than that. So with that done, let's start delivering these to the lumber mill. We don't need more wagon wheels. That's just absolutely never going to be the case. And in fact, since that's already fully backstuffed, I'm going to repurpose these wagons to a different task. These peeps can be sent back to the available workforce. Or you know what, we can move the logs down towards the lumber mill a little bit faster. That should help out quite a lot. So this will gradually pull all of these down as we go. We have definitely got a little bit more room in the barn here, but maybe we want to upgrade that a little bit further. You know what? Sure. Let's go ahead and upgrade that further. And we'll do exactly the same for the log barn as well. We want both logs and planks in very, very large numbers. Right, so that one's all dealt with. Now, I'm a little bit cautious of the amount of time that we have had the grain mill completely shut down, but hopefully we should be okay. Actually, we are using up our yellow coins quite quickly. So let's pop down another wagon while we can still afford to get one, and have you move some more fish, because we've definitely got plenty of fish available there. In fact, I'm going to say that we can probably afford another one besides. So there we go. Let's get all of these fish down there so that we've got a healthy income of yellow coins. Right, so we've got the grain mill. We want this set up to use animal feed. It's a different ratio again. If you care about these things, you can focus on that. Oh, we've managed to get basic logistics. Marvelous. We've now got the conveyor belt, which would make a lot of the wagons that we've got surplus to demand. And the grabber, probably one of the most important logistic blocks tools you will have in the game. The grabber and the pusher together are the most important blocks for managing the logistics of your automatic delivery systems easily. All the others you can do without. They're very useful, but you could get away without having them. But the grabber and the pusher are by far the most important ones. And we're going to be working now on this logistics, so we'll get the pusher as well. Right, I'm actually a little bit concerned about the speed that we're using up our yellow coins. So I'm just going to downgrade the foresters. We'll keep production going, but we just won't be producing it as quickly and thus using it up as quickly. Right, so the grain mill all set up. Let's go ahead and set this to bring over some grain from all the way back there. So rotate that around properly. There we are. Perfect. Now, I'm not going to increase the speed that the farm is producing grain right now, because it'll just wipe out the grain that we have that much faster, and that is definitely not something we want to do. What we want instead is a pasture. Now I'm going to build this next to the water so that the pasture can gather the water straight away from the lake there, and we won't have to worry too much. Because of the proximity of the water tiles, we can bring water in at a speed of 1 unit per second, which is quite good enough. Now, what are we going to produce? Well, 1 fertilizer in 3 seconds, and 1 water, we can get just 1 fertilizer every 3 seconds. But if we were to go for something like, if we were willing to spend a gold coin right now, I'm not, we could get some chicken, which would in turn make more money for us, some beef, much the same thing, or we could go for wool. And I think we're going to go for wool because we're going to want a lot of red coins in the future. We're going to very quickly get to the point where we're going through our red coins much faster than we're making them. Indeed, our research is already starting to do that a little bit. And this is just a straight double up. So, we'll put twice as much resources in, we'll get 1 fertilizer, 1 wool, and I think that will be plenty for us. We're not going to use fertilizer that fast, so this seems to be a reasonable solution. Next up, we're going to place down a quick barn, and can we just pause for a moment just to appreciate how good these 2 buildings look right next to each other. They seem like they were meant for this, and indeed in some ways they probably were. Right. Now, with the grabber available to us, we can automate a little bit of this process. And I'm going to, well, we could separate this and have the grabber pull out the fertilizer, because fertilizer can move along a chute. It's one of a few items that you can get from a pasture that can, at least if nothing has changed. Let's go to logistics blocks, a grabber. Now I'm going to set this facing the wrong way, because I want to tell it what it's allowed to grab before I hook it up to the pasture. Otherwise, it'll pull wool out, or might pull wool out, and then that would clog everything up. We want it to grab fertilizer, and we want to tell the barn to only accept fertilizer. There we are. And we can, that is the barn, not the grabber. There we are. And we want to rotate this around. There we go. And now it's automatically pulling all of that fertilizer out of the pasture and straight into the barn for us. Now, it will stop on the wool. They will not stop on fertilizer. Fertilizer can back stuff, and it won't affect whether the pasture will continue producing its primary resource. I think the only time that happens is if fertilizer is the only thing being produced. So if the recipe was just fertilizer and it had its maximum amount of fertilizer, it would stop making anything more. But everything else produces fertilizer as a byproduct. In these cases, fertilizer will not stall production, but the primary product will. So since we haven't taken the wool out of there, we're not making any more fertilizer, and that is a problem for us. So we are going to want a wagon, and possibly 2, given the distance it's going to have to travel. Well, it's going to have to just be 1 for now because we can't afford 2. We are at that point. Now let's get that all the way down to the general store, please and thank you. And to expedite this trip, we'll add in some roads there as well, just to make it that little bit faster for you. There we are, perfect. Now, with that all moving along, we can do something a little bit better for the farm. We can actually start placing farming tiles under the natural resources. Now, these do cost gold as well, so we're going to have to do that slowly. But you'll notice, if you pay attention to the growth progress, it doesn't unfortunately give us a number to tell us how fast it is in general, but you can usually observe it based on that. Now, if we select this one, you can see that that's actually going up that little bit faster, but it can accept water and it can accept fertilizer to speed it up even more. So that's definitely something that we want to do. Now, with just those 2, it'll start producing things, here and there. That 1 wagon is we're probably going to get this back stuffed fairly quickly, actually, because now that's at 10. We're not going to be able to accept any more animal feed, so the animal feed is going to be clogged in here, the grain is going to be clogged in there, and slowly but surely this is going to be a bit of an issue for us. So what we're going to do now is we're going to place this down there, and I'm going to allow this to feed into the grain mill where possible. Now, generally, I would prefer it to go this way first, and there are ways that we can do that, but for the time being, we should be okay. As the gold coins filter in, we will continue to upgrade the farm plots here. There we go. And let's get another one down there. Now, these are only growing, slowly compared to what they can based on the fact that we don't yet have water being delivered. So that's the next thing that we want to do. We want to build a well. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can do this. First and foremost, we'll grab a well, and we'll just place it right next to the farm. Now, that well has... interesting. It has something over it. Why? Oh, that's very interesting. It's because it's trying to offload the water onto a chute. Right, no, that's fine. I was very confused with that. I thought maybe they'd updated wells to not be able to draw any water if they weren't next to water. Wells can and do show up a highlight when they're next to a river. I can illustrate that like this. So I imagine that eventually wells will only work when they're in a proximity to a water source. But right now, they draw in water just about as fast, no matter what. And we can have a single meeple helping to bucket water across to the farm. There. Why have you gone over there when you could have just stood over here? Come on now. Let's move you down there. It's going to be so much more efficient. There we are. And you can move the water to the farm. You'll never need to step anywhere else. That is your life now. Thank you very much for your help. In the farm, we can go ahead and add supply water. There we go. And now we will only water the fields that actually have, that are farm tiles. But as you can see, that has massively increased the speed that these farm tiles are growing. But the other thing you'll notice is that once it has grown, it stops consuming the water. Water is only used to grow the crop, not to sustain the crop. So that's a pretty important one right there. Let's go ahead and add a couple more tiles so that the farm has more tiles to work with. Let's get as many of them as we can get done. There we go, and we'll probably be able to get all of them. There we are. So with that done, this little farm is probably going to be able to grow enough wheat that it's not going to end up in a point where it can never harvest anything. There will always be one of them that is, like, by the time that it's harvesting the last crop that's available in the field, the earliest crop that it harvested will have regrown, so you'll always have sustained harvesting. At this point, I think we can afford to add in an extra meeple to work on that, and that'll hopefully start to fill this up to capacity, and then start moving more grain over to the pasture. Maybe a little bit more would be necessary. Ultimately, each of these could use the output from 2 farms. So an extra meeple there would help quite a lot. And to that end, we're going to upgrade a house. There we go. We'll add in a 4th worker for this farm. And at this point, we are easily going to be able to sustain this one farm at the very least, and slowly build up a stock of fertilizer. In fact, as soon as we can, I would like to get another wagon to move that wool out of the pasture so that we're producing red coins even faster. Now, there is another way that we can work the well that doesn't require people. Now, we can use a conveyor belt. A conveyor belt can remove a bucket of water from a well, but you have to have a grabber, I believe. I don't think you can have a well automatically output to it. It's possible with that little arrow that it will. However, we now have liquid pipes or fluid pipes, and that is completely new to the game since the last time I played. So I want to check that out. So we're going to set up a new building in our lumber chain to make use of that. How are these buildings doing, by the way? Have we removed all of the wood? We have removed all of the wood. Well, I am very impressed. That means we don't need to build more wagons. I can just have these 2 repurposed to help out with that. So if you could please move some more of those that wool down there, that would be fantastic. You can check out how your economy is doing by pressing P, and you can have a look at the overall trend of your coins. And the overall trend of our yellow coins is up in cycles, and probably we'll observe this will be the way that it functions as wagons are emptying out the stockpiled flour, so on and so forth. But we're generally going to see this trending upwards over time. And red coins, much the same. We're not doing much that uses them yet, and we're producing a modest amount. So overall, we should be fine. How is the market doing? The market's not doing too badly. In fact, grains are doing quite well. You have a look at that. Houses happily supplied with an item, and houses actively consuming the item. So that's actually pretty cool. Let's have a look in here. There we are. You are happily supplied. You're happily supplied. This one has... there we are. Actively consuming versus happily supplied. So yeah, that's not too bad. We're actually doing all right there. Our happiness is about to run out. We haven't had a delivery of wool in a while. So that's the difference between the blue and the green. Green is they've got the resource there and it's maintaining their happiness, whereas the blue is, well, you know, they are working through the last dregs of whatever supply they had before it runs out and they stop being happy about it altogether. Right, let's go ahead and set up a fluid pipe manufacturing setup. I believe these are made in the lumber mill. Yes, they are, and they're made for the same recipe as planks, so we could have them being made in the lumber mill making planks, but I would, since that's such an important resource, I'd rather have that being maintained by itself. So we are instead going to add a little area down here just for the production of fluid pipes, and I think that will be fine. Now we could have it in a row along here if we really wanted to. It would mean that we're going to lose the little speed up there, and as much as I like it, it is kind of surplus to demand, if I'm perfectly honest. So we've had our fun now. It's time to put that away. I know it pains me too, but you know, we've gotta get the buildings built where they need to be built. So we need 3 and 3, and that will easily fit in there. So we want this pipe to this chute to come down there. We'll have you join up like that, and this one can come down there, and then move across, and there we are. Everything is hooked back up. I am going to want it to peel off in here when there's an excess of logs elsewhere in the chain. Now I want to use the pipette tool, which is Q, to grab a lumber mill, pop that down there. I didn't copy over the settings because I wanted to be set up differently, and we want this one to be making fluid pipes. There we go. Next up, we want a barn for fluid pipes. Now, again, like the wagon wheels, I imagine we're not going to need to upgrade this one, but I don't actually know how much fluid pipes we're going to be using. So we'll have to keep an eye on this one. We may need to adjust that one later. But there we are. And finally, I need one more meeple to help out. On the flip side, I could grab one of the wool wagons to help out down here. There we go, that'll do. You can go and work that instead. We are making some reasonable progress on the trees here. Oh, we have run out of stone. Well, that is a bit of a problem. That is actually quite a large problem. Okay. So we are going to want to get mining operations resumed for stone. Now we've got a very large amount of stone over there. We've also got little outcroppings here and here. Sure, let's go ahead and start moving things around. We want the stonemason down here. I'll pop you about there. Bricks are very, very important resources, so we're probably going to want more of those than anything else, but we're going to do much the same as we have with our current setup for lumber, only we're going to have to be manually harvesting this. Let's get all of you down here as well, and that means we can also get rid of this entire section, actually. So X for the hotkey there, and we'll just delete all of that, and that's going to make things a lot easier for our peeps to move around as it happens. So I'm pretty happy with that one. Set that up. There we go. And in fact, we can draw that out, but we're not going to worry about that one right now. There we go. Okay, so all of that done. We want to have probably a chute just running along here. We want this one to be at the terminus of it. Well, actually, no. We do want a reasonable amount of just stones available as well. So let's go ahead and set that up, shall we? And just draw this out like so. Something along those lines. And we'll have this all drawn down. Actually, we didn't need that last little bit there. I'll get rid of that. There we are. So we are going to want a chute running the length just down here and filtered in. I also want this barn to be rotated because it's facing the wrong way. And then once that one's full, we'll deliver to the mason here. Now the mason, I want you to deliver bricks in there. I want this one to deliver bricks. Well, honestly, yeah, let's start getting the bricks up there. We want to get all of this sorted out. And all of you are going to be busy little bees working on that. Now, I could speed this up, but there's really no point. As long as they get it onto this, then it should all work fine. There we go. That'll work lovely. And be delivered where it needs to go. This one needs to be set up for rocks only, or rather stones only. This one needs to be set up for stone brick only. There we are. And this should already be set to the stone brick recipe. It's going to take a little while for that to start producing, but that's fine. We are going to want more meeples, so that's absolute at this point. In fact, we're going to want quite a few. So let's pop those down and get a couple more wagons on the go. So let's in fact, we're going to use up the entirety of our available wagons there, because we want stones being moved down there. And at this stage, I'm going to say just move the stone bricks over to the general store. Just get those out of the base. That's the main thing there. We've got a couple of wood logs in there, but we can move those later on. In fact, I can have dedicated wagons set up to the base to move these resources out as they become available. So delivering them to the barn, for example, the moment that there's any room in the barn. And that's ultimately what I would like, is to have every single resource that frequently gets deleted. So logs, planks, probably stone bricks as well, because once we start putting down stone roads, those will be things that we want moved out of the barn. Things like the wagon wheels, that's an uncommon item to be in there, though. That being said, every time I delete a wagon, those wagon wheels do end up being supplied down there. This is a little bit less than ideal, I'm going to be honest. So how about I have some of you deliver to let's grab you three, sure. Let's have some of you deliver to this. There we are. That should help out things quite a lot. There we go. Having 3 for each location should generally be okay, because there should always be 3 tiles visible. That being said, you don't seem to be able to move around there, so that hasn't really worked out for me, has it? It'll fix itself with time, but the main thing is that we're getting plenty of items stored where they need to be. So that has resolved that problem. Now, we are going to want to take care of probably... Oh, there we go. We've managed to get intermediate logistics. That's fantastic. Have we got anything else we can go for? We can go for advanced logistics. That now needs blue coins. We are not going to be there for quite some time. We're not going to make it a priority at the very least. How's the crate full of fish? The crate full of fish is not doing so well. We've got so many wagons working this area now that that's not going to help. So as I just mentioned, sometimes I'm going to be sticking more wagon wheels into the base. We'll just get rid of that wagon. We'll have a second meeple helping out there. I wouldn't mind delivering some of the fertilizer we've got over to the farm, because that would increase the speed that we can regrow the grain even more. That would actually be quite nice. I think on this one we're going to get an extra house though. There we are. And get a wagon going there. Now I'm not going to worry too much about the delivery taking too much of the fertilizer away, because as you've seen with the water, we only use a little bit of water to get quite a large result from the farm. And I imagine that this is also going to be the case with the fertilizer as well. I don't anticipate that we're going to start stripping all of the available fertilizer away from our barn over there. But so far, so good. We're managing this reasonably well. I could increase the speed that I'm producing wheat, but I'm not worried about that one for the time being. What I would really like to work on is setting up a proper farming area, like a dedicated farming area that should be able to mass produce large quantities of flour that should in turn then be able to keep us going as far as this goes. It looks like we may actually be consuming all of the flour that we can have. Let me have a quick look at that. Yes, it's actually reasonably good. Most of them are stockpiling these items now. They've got a reasonable stock of items. Well, that's actually pretty good. Not all of them, so we could stand to make it a little bit better, but yeah, that's a bit better than I was expecting. So with that in mind, maybe we're going to go for something other than just grain. Let's have a quick look. We're already bringing in fish. We could go for fruits. Vary their diet a little bit. Fruits and veg will be the things that we're going to aim for then. All right, I like this idea. So let's go ahead and build a new farm. We're going to have that farm just down here. Well, we'll leave a little bit of room. I like having the fields behind the farms and kind of around the sides where possible. So this one, we are going to want to gather berries. Berries are roughly equivalent to grain in terms of the speed that we'll be able to produce it. I do want to supply water. I do want to supply fertilizer as well, if I have them available. Now, you may have noticed a little bit of shenanigans going on there. If you click in the bar here, rather than in the check mark, you tell it to exclusively produce that item. That is definitely not what we want to do. We don't want it to exclusively water fields and nothing else. That would seem a little bit wasteful, really. Right, we want a couple of berries. Honestly, I don't think we're going to need more than this for the entire farm to produce what we need, at least with the amount of houses that we currently have. And later on, we can improve this a little bit further. We want to go to farming. We want to grab plant berries. Now, these do cost a bit more to set up than grain, as you'll already have noticed. That's 20 rather than 10. Berries, I'm fairly certain, can move down a chute. I'll just set that up. And since this is not reporting to me that this can't be moved, we're good. Sugar would cause a problem, for example, and a few other odds and ends as well. Now we are going to need at least 2 more peeps, so let's get that going. Pump. There we are. With this, we could set up a little barn to gather the materials and then ship them, because we're just going to be moving these whole. We're not going to require any further processing of berries, and indeed, the moment I build a farm to make, let's say, we'll leave a little bit of space between them, but we're going to have this one producing, how about potatoes? Some good old tatus. There we are. And we'll place down some farm tiles as well. Once again, exactly the same way, just popping that back there. And then fill that with potato plants. These are nice and easy. There we go. Now, how frequently? That's 1 every 3 seconds. So it's just slightly slower, but not in any meaningful way. Now, it is going to take a little bit of time because we've freshly planted these, so there's nothing helping them grow right now. We are going to want a barn, I would say. And I'm going to say, ultimately, we could easily have 3 farms, all producing 3 different products, but I could have a barn just here, for example, being supplied by both of these farms. And before we do that, I want to set them up to have a filter. Now, this is going to be the first instance where I have a mixed barn. And with things like this, which I'm not building with, I'm fine with that. In fact, I would have been fine using silos rather than barns. Silos are much like barns, much larger storage capacity than crates, but unfortunately, you can't build out of silos. But I'm going to have the first 2 set up for berries, and the second 2 set up for potatoes. There we are, and that should be all we need to do. And we can then happily hook these up into the corners there. There we are. And these will only fill up as far as these 2 items will allow. And at this point, we can draw out our road. We're not going to need much in the way of wagons running this trail, so we are probably okay with that. At this stage, I really do feel that we either need more houses or we need better tier houses. So, sure, Old Town is going to get a few additions. Now, these ones mean... Oh, my lord. Cycled too many times. Twice. Don't you just hate it when it gets to that point? But these ones are probably never going to be fully upgraded. I may have just a spattering of lower tier houses just around the edges, just to add a little bit to it. But that's all we're going to need for now. And that we're probably not going to add many more, maybe 2 or 3 more houses. But again, the ones on the edges will be limited to a lower level, just to create a bit more of a nice effect in the Old Town region. I think it'll look really, really nice. Eventually, a lot of these industries will move elsewhere, because the distances that you can play with in this game are quite vast, and you may as well. I want 2 of these to be moving... Oh, no, I want them not to be gathering berries. I want them to be delivering berries. There we go. And then 2 to be delivering potatoes. Let's get you going. And we should see that make quite a nice impact on our yellow coins. Now, we've got a lot of wagons using this at the same time, so it probably would help me out a little bit if I made these paths a bit longer. There we go. There we are. Now, that is going to be a big improvement. Very big improvement to our happiness. Look at that. We're up to 40% productivity now. That is brilliant. That's without having to add any extra people to any of the facilities. We're just straight up getting almost a half an extra person working in every facility that we own. Now, if you have a look down here, we're generating 3 happiness out of food. Now, ideally, we'll be able to get that up to 4 happiness, but you will have noticed that we are not stocking that many items just yet. I believe they will make more inventory slots depending on the items that they have. Like, they're not limited to it, but we will see. We will see how that goes. But right now, we are definitely overproducing, I would say. Like, drastically overproducing. Let's have a look down there. There we are. Potato growing. Potatoes being happily harvested. We could likely have a couple more wagons. So I'm going to upgrade you to a tier 2. We'll just leave that at that point there. We'll still have a tier 1 or 2 here and there. Now, that isn't the best use of our houses because we only have a limited amount of houses in the game that we can ever build, depending on the way that we set things up. But this should be quite nice there. Those 2 little farms there and this one slightly bigger farm, honestly, is helping out enormously. Now, these are not yet using any kind of water to help out. So I think the last thing that we're going to do in this episode is just demonstrate the fluid pipe mechanic. So let's go ahead and build a well. Now, this well is going to be... we can have it here. Perhaps it'll look quite fitting in this little area. In fact, I think it will, and we'll add in a little bit of path around here for no other reason than I can, because it looks nice. There we are. And in fact, we'll draw this all the way out to the road down there and just finish that off. There we are. That actually looks quite lovely. And you can get really, really artistic with this game. It's one of the things I love about it. Right, so with that built, we can now go ahead and play around with our fluid pipes. And in fact, we can do it over here as well. So we no longer need this worker. You can return to the worker pool, and that will earn me an extra 2 wagons, which will in turn make more money. So let's grab some more berries, get them heading down there. Now, as you can see, I'm already dedicating an enormous amount of population just to moving potatoes and berries to the market. We're probably going to want to deal with that in the future. We're actually stockpiling fish. Wow. Really, yes. Everywhere is full on fish. That is particularly awesome. I like that a lot. Now, the issue here is we've got a couple of things trying to move through there. Oh, well, actually, currently only 1 wagon is trying to move through this, so it should be okay. But not to get too distracted. Now, I've cut water off over here, and that is because we no longer need any kind of population to move water around. We can use fluid pipes. Now, we've already got... we are not actually stockpiling it. Really, have we not built any fluid pipes? Well, that is a bit of a worry. It's probably because I upgraded the barns a bit. That was silly of me. Well, one thing we can do over here is oh, no, you don't even have the population to help with that. Damn, Dragon Blast. Okay, well, I guess we're going to have to drop 2 of our wagons in order to do that then. The troubles of trying to make a pretty town and not fill up the population as you know you could. But what I can do over here is just to quickly expedite the process of getting this done. We can just pop that in there and then start producing some fluid pipes, and that will help out quite a lot. Now, the way that fluid pipes work, and the way that in fact all pipes work, we've got quite a few different types of pipes now. I can place a pipe down, like I could place a wagon that is in the overland view, and in which case, using tab, I can change the plane that I'm building on, so I can have the pipes come out. We can make something very, very interesting and visually striking with the pipes. You can thread like helix-like structures of pipes all across your factory, move things around, having pipes adjoining buildings and like inputting into the side. It's especially nice if you're going for more of an industrial, like steampunk kind of feel to things. But you can also go into the grid overlay. Now, whereas on the surface, it's 3-dimensional, so you can have pipes of the same type crossover, this is a plane. It's just purely a 2D plane, so pipes can't intersect without interacting with each other. So, for example, right now, all fluid pipes are on this plane. If we move to steam overlay, all steam pipes are on this plane. And you can sort of think of it in terms of the steam pipes exist on Z-1, fluid pipes on Z-2, mana pipes on Z-3, so on and so forth. They Each different type of pipe exists exclusively on its own layer, but it is a two-dimensional. It's just a plane. So you can't have them crisscrossing with quite the same sort of freedom. But we don't need to worry about that. What we want is for this pipe to connect these two locations. So what you saw me doing there, it may have been not immediately obvious. This is a pipe, and it is directional. Objects move in this way. If I attach a pipe like this, you notice the arrow there is telling me that it's an output pipe from this building. If I have the pipe move into the building, like so, actually, no, that still shows it as an output pipe. Let me delete these for a second then, so it's a little bit easier. That is an output pipe, like that. And this, oh no, actually it's just straight up an interface. Okay, I thought there was a distinction between output and input, but it doesn't look like there are. Even though the symbols there make it a little look like one is pointing in, one is pointing out. It's probably just this is an interface to the building, and then it relies on the direction the pipe is moving to tell whether it's an input or an output. But we can do exactly that down here and just have these pipes like so. We'll have a natural split there. So as one gets full, the other one will start accepting. So there we go. Now, the nice thing with this is actually each farm will actually be willing to water each other's crops. So this one farm, it's getting all of the water, but it will actually start watering the potato fields as well. And then this one will fill up. And then at that point, either or will tend to things. And it's just going to be a little bit faster overall as a direct result of that. So everything is working as planned, and I'm actually really happy with this. We're still trying to move bricks. No, we are not. Really, we've got water in there. I think we can just safely delete water. We don't need water being stored in there, not even slightly. We have, however, filled this barn with stone, which is not exactly what we want. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to upgrade that, and upgrade it twice, in fact. And then we're going to start moving all of this stone over there as fast as we can. Those fluid pipes, honestly, you can grab these for me and move them back. Again, we are going to ultimately want some sort of automated process by which someone is emptying out the base whenever it ends up filling up with an item that it shouldn't have. There we go, and then we can have you return to moving the fluid pipes from that lumber mill back into the barn. And at this stage, I think it's safe for us to reconnect the log flume in a way, if this was water. And I hope at some point that we can imagine that the only reason that this is moving so freely is because there is actual water lubricating the chute, and that's why it's effectively frictionless. Excuse me, I've just got a little bit of a frog in my throat. But I think with that, we have done everything we needed to do in this episode. We've got a fairly healthy production of food now. It is all sustainable. We've even got some wool being produced. We've got flowers. We've got flour. We've got berries. We've got potatoes. We have fertilizer and wool. And we've even set up our lumber industry and our stone industry a little bit better. Besides, we've got this nice big open space over here that we may eventually move something into, though I've got no particular plans to do that just yet. We can still build 2 more houses in Old Town District before we need to upgrade our base in order to do anything else, but that is going to require cloth, so that's probably going to be the focus of the next episode, is to get more of our industrial facilities up. And I think at that point is probably going to be one of the times where we actually start setting up a distinct town. We may go ahead and unlock one of these areas so that we can move production over there. Do let me know in the comments what you think about that. We can pretty much get any of them. We were almost at the amount that we need already. And we'll set up a little industrial town that's going to be producing a couple of things. We may move our lumber industry over there when we do it as well, depending on the presence of trees, because obviously if there aren't too many trees there, then it's going to take a lot for us to get to the point that we can start manufacturing the metal that we need to build the tree planters. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with the progress we've made, and I hope you are as well. Do let me know what you think of the series so far down in the comments below, and of course, if you enjoyed the episode, then do consider leaving a like. But that's going to be it from me, so until next time, and as always, do take care, everyone.